So,
Okay.
welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I'm here with Sarah Schultz, actress and filmmaker. And today's episode is brought to you by Writer Fuel, made possible by a bunch of coffee I bought at the fucking store.
Yes. Yes. I
All
have my
right.
coffee too. Cheers.
Yay, what do you say? Oh, I love that movie.
Yes, I got it.
Oh, I just
I,
watched it like I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago, and I was thinking like, oh man, it's gonna be one of those like found footage movies that makes me want to puke as soon as I turn it on. Where they're like, you know what I mean? Those movies where they're like running through the woods and you just see their feet
yes.
because they're holding like pick the camera up because they're just like filming their feet and you're like, we don't care about your feet. And they're
That's
just
not
like,
what we're
and you just hear
watching.
them because they got the camera right by their head, and you just hear, ah, ah, ah. I'm like, what? Are you
Yes.
making a snuff film? And they're like, oh, my feet, my feet, my feet. You know, you're like,
Oh my
but that
God.
was so good.
Yes. Yes, I agree. But that's how I feel. And then I physically get sick because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of movement. And now
It's a
it's just
lot of like
bad.
whip pans, and it's just like, it's like somebody like turned the camera loose with like their like ornery 5-year-old cousin who's known for like just taking stuff and just running off in the woods with it. And you're like,
Yes.
he's never gonna come back.
No,
And
no,
then
we're
he
just
comes
gonna see
back and
feet.
he's like, I dropped it in a bottle. And you're like,
It's yes, it's such a nightmare. I'm like, oh, I can't watch this. Like, I gotta
but,
shut this
but
off.
like that movie was so great because I feel bad for some of the actors because on a certain level, you're like, how many times did they have to like hold their breath under that like disgusting water? And I don't even know. I mean, it looked like a real tunnel. So it's like, did they know like ahead of time? Did they like scout the location and be like, we swear it comes out on the other side?
You'll be
they're like
fine.
they're like underwater like this, and then after a while they're like, we better go back because can't fucking breathe.
Right, right. And how much are you getting paid? Like, I'm like, I
Right?
need a bonus on top of that. Thank
You
you.
gotta wonder too with some movies like that if there's like a lot of guerrilla like stolen shots where they're just like people and they're just like looking around and then like they don't see anybody, they're like open the fucking manhole cover and then like open the
Yes.
cover and they're just like, oh, what's in here? I don't know.
It's a
But the
surprise.
shot looks great.
That's so
And later
funny.
they come out and the police are like, that was a septic tank, right? We didn't
We had no idea. Thanks for
know. And they're
sharing.
like, damn kids. Um, so let me
Exactly.
congratulate you. I was just checking this out the other day. Bloodbath on 4th Avenue. I read the write up
Yes.
on Dread Central. So
Oh,
awesome.
thank
Got some making
you.
praise on there.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll just go back to the beginning and kind of what got you interested in horror films. Was it like something you saw or somebody brought over like a tape or a DVD when you were younger and they're like, we're not supposed to watch this, but
But we're going to.
right.
so so I started out watching Jaws. So I looked at it as it's not really a scary movie, right? But to me at that age it was. I was like
But the
7, 8.
music though, like
The
anytime you
music.
hear that music, you're like, even you could be like in a freaking like clear as day hotel, like
Yep.
jacuzzi or like pool, and then somebody plays that music, you're like, your feet come out, and you're like, I don't know why I took my feet out. Like, there's not going to be a fucking shark in the
It's
pool, but you're still just like,
yes. Yes. I'm not going to lie to you. So watching it at a very young age, so I would when I would take a bath, I was scared to put bubbles in because I'm like, well, what if he comes out from, the
like a
shower
fin's going
head?
to be like, yep, and you're like, fucking
Yes.
do it.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't even want bubbles in here. And my mom was like, are you kidding me right now? But I literally would just sit there like, oh, and I'm all looking around. So yeah, I get it. The music was killer. But that was my first film and I was obsessed with it. I still love it. Have
That's a
collectibles,
great story.
shirts.
Like that story is so
Yeah.
great. Like I go back time and again. I think the writer, I think his name is John Milius. He like really helps Spielberg with that scene where they're on the boat and they're like they start off comparing like their little bites and scars. And then he
Mm-hmm.
goes into that story about the USS Indianapolis, about how it sank and everybody was in the water. And then after a while, they like float over to their buddy to check on him, and he like touch him, and the guy would just
Yeah.
flip over, and he'd be bitten in half by the shark. And like that's
Yes.
such a great scene because that actor sells it so well because he's so serious, and the other guys are just like,
Yeah, they're like, what are we doing right now?
like we are no longer men. We have to give up our balls. We're
It's like
never
I'm
gonna
scared.
we're not on the same testosterone level of a badass that survived like 100 sharks. Yeah. So,
Right?
but it's that great story, and you I know you probably watched the behind the scenes stuff, but it's like it wouldn't have been the same movie if the robotic shark would have worked that much because it didn't work that much. So they had to like figure out ways to make it seem like the shark is there without the robot shark. And
Yeah.
my one of my favorite scenes is the two drunk idiots with like the turkey on the chain, and they throw it out, and then
Yes.
the shark like bites it and rips part of the pier away. And
Yes.
then it's like you just see the pier and it's so simple of a thing. It's just underwater, but the pier just goes like this, and then it goes, and then the pier starts to come back towards them, and the dude's just like, get out of the water. And it's like you don't
Right?
really see anything, but in your mind you're like, shark equals death. So get the fuck out.
Right. Exactly. And then cue the music, and that just adds it all. That's a recipe, you know.
Yeah, that's
It's
why
great.
like any other shark movie, it's just I mean they have like CGI and they can make it like jump out stuff, but
It's not the same. I can't get into any other shark movies now.
it's
Like Jaws is it. I'm like, this is it for me. I can't do it.
plus the way that they had it, what was it, off the coast of New England, and that water is like so dark.
Oh
They
yeah.
made another one, like a fourth one or something, and it was in the Bahamas, and it was coming out of the water, and it was like, growing. I was like,
Yeah.
no.
That's
But
not okay. Like,
so let me ask you this: let's dovetail that into what got you interested in like making or being a part of like your own stuff. Like you saw this stuff when you were a kid, and then you thought
yeah.
like well, you're like a teenager or something when you're older, and you were like, I want to do that.
Yes. I literally I went to school for it. I did. Then I just got into like commercial acting too. I did all the things. And I went to Excel Models and Talent in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then I moved out here. So I finished up at John Casablancas in Scottsdale, and then I just went on my own. Basically, I was independent. I didn't sign with anyone at all. And I started in Sedona, Arizona, and they have a film school there. So I would go there and be an actor, and it was free work. So I started
Oh,
out the bottom where I was getting paid. I'm not even getting paid. I was just going there. I got the craft services. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was super young. So I started out in like little independent films for Zachy Gordon Institute, helping out film students. So then I moved up to, okay, I need to start getting paid for this as I get
you're like,
older.
I'm doing a lot of driving here.
Yeah,
I'm buying a lot
exactly.
of snacks for people.
Right? I'm going to eat my way back home. Like, no, it's not going to work like that. So then I got into being an extra, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting paid for this, maybe in the background I'm getting paid. And I met my husband, and he's really smart. He's full of ideas. He's like an entrepreneur. He's just like, okay, so he was a photographer. I was one of his models, and that's how we met. So he was doing videography, photography, music, and then he got into filmmaking. And this is after we got married. And he's like, I kind of want to make films. Like, oh, that would be cool. So then we make Mort House Films. So that's our production company. And I never ever thought as a teen that I would ever have any of that. I'm like, and there's so many people that were saying, yeah, it's really hard. You're not going to get into it. It's really
Don't
difficult. It's
listen
going
to
to take a
those
long
people. They suck.
time. Yeah. I was like, oh, so I was kind of like, I felt like that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do anything with this. And then we made it happen, and my husband's like, no, we're gonna get More House Films going, because I told him when I was a teenager. He goes, no, let's do this. We can do this. And I'm so grateful and blessed and just happy that I am actually living my dream. I'm not at Angelina Jolie level, but I am in the indie horror scene and I love it. And I've met amazing people. Your show's amazing. I've been on some great podcasts and I'm just so blessed. So we ended up making Mort House Films, and so we had Dark Web Mystery Box, then Bloodbath. So the first baby was Dark Web, and then the second was Bloodbath.
And you guys did, was it Dark Web? But that was during lockdown, right?
Yeah,
Dark Web. So walk me through that process, because I did a comedy horror thing during lockdown too. It was just like we had to do it all through Zoom and everything, and that's how we did it. It was like we entered it in festivals. We didn't even know until like a year later that it got, because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So walk me through yours. Like, how did that get up and going?
So Tony Newton, he's located in the United Kingdom. He actually watched some of mine and my husband's YouTube videos, because we do unboxing of true crime memorabilia. So we get boxes from all these companies and we open them up and we just go through everything. So he was watching it. He goes, "Hey, I really like you guys. Would you want to be in my movie?" We're like, "How are we going to shoot a movie right now? Where are you?" You know, and he's like, "I'm in the UK." And I'm like, "We can't fly right now." Yeah, I'm like, what? How is this happening? This is all so new. This pandemic just twisted everyone's minds. And I'm like, well, what do we do? And he's like, no. He goes, what's going to happen is you're going to film it and you're going to send it to me. He goes, I reached out to other YouTubers as well who are doing the same thing, and they're in California or Virginia. And I'm just like, okay, awesome. So we set up our house like it was a movie set. I'm like, this is kind of cool and convenient, not minding it. So that was our first film we ever shot in isolation, and it was great. And my husband has all the equipment because he also shoots commercials. So he had all the things, and I'm like, this is great. So we had it all set up, and we could incorporate our cat into it. And I'm like, look, we have a black cat. That's spooky. And it was just great. I loved it. We were super, a lot of it was improvised too. So that was fun. So he didn't really give us a script. He's like, this is who you guys are. You're going to play yourselves. And this is what happens. And we're like, okay, so we're going to improvise. And it was great. It ended up being pretty good. It was so much fun. And then I heard about other people doing it too. And I'm like, this is great. Other people are doing this, because it's hard when you have a passion and you're like, I can't do it right now, because
you got to find those other outlets, and you also got to find like-minded people that are also like, there's so many people out there that I run into, and I'm not going to mention any names, but it's just like, they want that, like, where do I go to be a movie star? And you're like, oh, on the corner of back there and never.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're willing to just get your hands dirty and, like you said, grab some equipment, and just find people that just want to make something.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many people, like when you find those like-minded people that on that level of like, they get excited and they get off on like, oh my God, we're making a movie. Like, oh my God. Like, and like every day you get up and you have that, like, yeah. Because
so excited.
Like, you can't think about money, like making money, and you can't think about like distribution. You know, you're going to put like, you're going to wear out your debit card. You know, you're going to like sell some stuff or mortgage whatever, and your friends are going to throw money in it too. And it's just, you got to have that like never say die kind of like attitude, because that's really what's going to get you through.
Yeah, definitely.
And so let me ask you, like, going off of that, because you're in Arizona, so what would you say are some pros and cons of filming in Arizona? Like, would you say it's like some things are easier and some things are harder?
Yeah. So obviously it's desert, and where we live, so up north, it's northern Arizona, it's all forest and green and snows in the winter.
So you got stuff you can drive to.
Yes, you can travel. So that is definitely a pro. And it's Flagstaff, Arizona. It's about 2-3 hours from where we are in Chandler, Arizona. So where we live in Chandler, it's scorpions, snakes, and desert. So if you're wanting to do something like The Hills Have Eyes, this is perfect. Like middle of nowhere, it's hot, you're miserable, and there's so many abandoned houses. And I'm just fascinated by them. I'm like,
Oh
can we
yeah, that's
stop so I can
awesome.
take a picture? Yeah, it's insane, especially when you're on the freeway and you're driving to like Tucson or something, which is like an hour and a half from here. You see like all these abandoned
Do they
houses.
have like, if you pulled up, I mean, do they have like 2-story houses where it's like safe to walk around in like the second floor?
I haven't seen any of those yet. It looks like they're all fallen through, like just, and I think it's the heat, to be honest, because it does get
Oh,
so hot here.
because just
It's
like my brain, because I'm like a
terrible.
writer too, and my brain just goes to like, that could be like a cool like aftermath shot of them, like people like leaving like this horrible house situation, but you got to
Yeah,
figure out like, you got to back that up and be like, well, we got to be inside somewhere and like looking out windows and stuff. So it's like,
yeah,
it just makes you think like, oh, okay, like future reference, like if I need some
yeah.
dilapidated thing and it's like middle of nowhere. I'm sorry, but like
It's
I think
amazing.
90% of horror movies starts off middle of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere, and there's always that throwaway comedy line that
Yep.
like eases tension, like, oh my god, this is how horror movies start.
Yes, exactly. That famous line. Yes.
That's awesome though. So what do you think some cons are? Like, is it hard to get like equipment or to get people to work for free, or some other kind of like stuff you've got to kind of run into, some stumbling blocks or maybe, or
Well, it's kind of hard because it's not like if it was California, I think it would be different because everyone shoots movies out there. You know, you look at California, you're in California, right? I'm sure it's easy to shoot out there in certain places.
you see, the thing is, I think that the problem we have is the opposite problem of you that you guys have, which is
Hmm.
we have beaches, we have desert within 2 hours, we have forest, we have mountains with snow, but because there's so much of the industry like based here, the industry itself is so anal about like permits and getting permission and
Oh,
posting
yes.
like the, I don't know, I used to do background work back in the day, but they always have like these like yellow placard signs, and like you'd be able to cordon off like parking for people. Whereas I feel like in
Mhm.
Arizona, you guys could just go out and do some shit. Just throw some bunch of shit and a bunch of people in a Winnebago, go 2 hours away in the middle of fucking nowhere, like a
Yes.
dilapidated house. And then if like a, God, I don't know out there, what would it be, like a county sheriff or somebody rolls up, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah.
we're making a movie for our college or whatever. And they'd be like, you guys have permission to be out here? Yeah, this is my uncle Jim Bob's old farm, and he died and he left us the land. The guy'd be like,
Yes.
going to the bar.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because you will have officers or someone from the Forest Service come up and they're like, what are you kids doing out here? And I'm like, oh, you could be part of the movie.
You're like
We
praying to a
need you.
pagan god trying to summon a demon. Duh.
I
And they're
know.
like, just fuck
See you
off.
later. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say the summers turn a lot of people off and wanting to make movies out here because it's so hot. But when we made Bloodbath, we were inside a house that was abandoned, but it was like 120 degrees outside, so it was
Oh,
hotter inside. So I'm like, no, I'm
yeah, I
in.
just that like
I'm in
sounds
it.
that sounds like a horror movie to me, because like we had like a heat wave here that just ended like yesterday, with like 4 or 5 days in a row, or it was almost 100, and I'm like, man, it's April. I'm
Yeah.
like, and that's like, I would put on sunscreen and I'd still come out, and then it'd be like this invisible voice behind my head, be like, "You're painfully white. Go back inside." And I'm like,
Yes.
all right, I'm fine. So
Oh yeah,
for
it's got to
that,
be the
tell
heat.
me, what might be one of your favorite like death scenes in a horror movie? It could be an old movie, it could be a newer one.
It has to be. You're gonna laugh. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen Terrifier.
Seen what?
You've seen Terrifier, right?
No, I haven't.
No. Oh, I don't know if I should tell
You
you.
can tell me. I mean,
Okay, I'll tell you. But it's not gonna really ruin anything. I'm trying to think, but I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so you have to watch it. Please watch it. It is on Netflix.
Terrifier.
Yes, Terrifier. Terrifier.
Okay.
And so the actor who plays Art the Clown actually became really good friends with myself and my husband because we worked at conventions together. So we got really close, and he's just very sweet and down to earth. He doesn't even think about, hey, I'm an actor and everyone knows who I am, and he's really sweet. So we got really close with him. So you got to watch it. So there's a part in the movie where one of the victims is tied up to a chair. She wakes up and she's like, oh, where am I? And then her friend is hanging over here, and she's completely just like, oh my God, I'm upside down. Like, what's going on? Here comes Art the Clown. He doesn't talk. He says nothing. He's just like silent, but he's funny. So it's like, it's crazy. You gotta watch it. He literally takes a saw and just goes right down, like the girl, he just splits her in half, and he just thinks it's hilarious. He's all oh afterwards, and I'm just like, oh my God. And before we met his name is David Howard Thornton. Before we met him, I was like, this guy is freaking scary. And I'm not kidding you. I'm like, so after my husband fell asleep, I turn on the closet light. I'm like, I'm kind of scared. And then I go back to bed. And I'm like, I gotta see. So when we met David, I was like, oh my God, you scared the crap out of me. And when you see him, it's like, you were Art the Clown? Like, what? You're not scary at all. And he's just like, he thinks it's hilarious because you don't expect it. That's a good actor
for you. It's like the actor, I call it the Scandinavian acting dynasty that is the Skarsgård family.
Yeah, I love that.
And I guess their youngest brother is going to be in like a horror movie because they've all had so much success in horror movies. But
yeah, I heard about
I had a friend of mine who went to a convention and he met Bill Skarsgård right after the second It movie came out.
Oh wow!
And he was like the most charming, like down to earth, nice, like just full of gratitude and being like, I've been on like TV shows, I've been on this, and then it's just so funny that me acting like a demented clown was the thing that got me over. And then the guy who was interviewing him was like, hey, how did they do the thing with Pennywise's eye where he like looks to the side? He goes, oh, you mean this? And it's fucking him. He does it himself, and his eyes like this, and the guy's like, oh.
That's so creepy.
He can actually do that, and I was like, that's how you got the part, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's like, look what I can do. Yeah.
Like, oh, just don't take our soul.
I know.
You got it.
You got the part. We're not even gonna call you back. You're good.
One of my favorite deaths in a horror movie is I know this is sacrilegious because I do like the original Thing movie, the John Carpenter.
Yeah.
But in the prequel that came out, it was like 10 years ago with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, where she goes to the Norwegian base.
Yeah.
When the creature gets loose in the recreation room or whatever, and then it like has like the spider arms or legs or whatever, and it walks toward the guy who's already got like his gut ripped open, and it like fuses with the side of his face, and he's like screaming, and it's like all happening at the same time, and then he like becomes part of the creature. So he's like alive and then becoming part of the creature. So he's like alive and dying and like becoming. So those movies are amazing because those like practical effects of like something shooting out of a dog. I'm like, I wouldn't even know, like there's not enough fake blood and paper mache in the world for me to figure that out. But that's why those guys are pros. Okay, so
Yes.
we'll add on to that. So what's your favorite horror movie creature and like why? If it's not, it doesn't have to be like your traditional vampire, werewolf, or whatever. It could be anything.
I don't know if he counts, but does Krampus count?
Yeah, I guess because it's not like a human, right?
Yeah, I mean he's kind of like
He's gnarly
Satan's
looking too.
cousin. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I just
And
love
I
him.
think that comes from like a German like folk tale that they
Folk
would
tell.
tell their kids like be good for Christmas or Krampus will get you. What a
Yes.
difference that is from when we were kids and it became, oh, be good or Santa won't bring you anything. Oh, you'll get a lump of coal.
Right.
Germans don't fuck around. They're
No.
just like, no, no, he will rip your heart out and eat it in front of you.
He will take you and I will
They'll
watch.
be like,
That is so true. They're just straight to the point.
well,
Yeah.
like, have you actually like read? You have kids too. I almost read my daughter a couple of years ago when she was under the Grimm fairy tales. But it's like
Yes.
if they have what we were read were like the really watered down fairy tale versions because there's the real Grimm fairy tales. Almost all the kids die.
Yeah, they
Almost
do.
all of them, and you're like, what the
Wow.
shit are these Germans like reading to their kids? And then they're like, well, they don't misbehave. I'm well, fuck no.
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they're just like, you know what? I'm gonna wake up smiling no matter what you ask me to do.
Please, mother, please.
Exactly. Like I will sweep
I mean,
the
it's
hallway.
like you must do your mathematics homework or Krampus will come and swallow your face. Oh, okay.
It's like, all right. Thanks, Mom. That is so true. Yeah, I love Krampus. My husband was actually in a movie called Krampus Unleashed like a long time ago.
It was like a
Yeah, he
sequel or
was.
a spinoff.
Yeah, he was in a movie, and he played like a very small role in it though. But I just love Krampus. We literally have him hanging on our wall,
Oh, that's cool.
and I've told my kids, I'm like, Krampus is gonna come if you guys aren't good. And then they literally for 3 years, like around Christmas, they're like, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, I mean, my God,
gonna
we
happen?
have that poster and they're just like,
They're like, that's
they're like
him.
walking the hallway like this, not trying to look at it.
Yeah, they're like,
Hopefully it's not one of those posters where the eyes are just like,
they're yellow and they're kind of like cat eyes, and he's all, it moves, it can move.
that's
So
freaky.
yeah, and I'm like, you guys better be good. And then then they have to research, like, is he real? And I'm like, don't you Google anything.
You're just in the living room on your couch on your phone like this. Yeah, you kids better stop farting over there. Krampus is gonna rip your butt out, and they're gonna be like, oh,
They're gonna be like, oh my God, Krampus is gonna come for everything.
Yeah, he can do it. So what would you say is like your favorite part of the filmmaking process for you? Is it like the coming up with the idea, the script writing, the acting, the producing, the casting, the location shooting, the editing? I mean, is there one part of it that kind of is more fun for you?
So, so I like when you come up with an idea and you just amaze yourself because you're like, wow, this is really good. We should do this. And then it actually, you see it become successful. And if it's mentioned in any interviews or in a magazine, you're like, oh my God, I came up with that. It's just that I love that part. I love location scouting. That's always fun for
Because
me.
it's like you kind of go out there and you're kind of like seeing it come to life in your mind because you're looking at the building or like a field or like a forest, right?
Yeah, you're looking at it, you're like, okay, so I can see you here, and this will happen here. It's great. I love it. And then I love being outside anyway. I like nature. So I'm like, it's fun to just go out and walk around and be like, this would be a great place to shoot this. And I love that part.
You're just out there
like,
and people are walking by you on the hiking trail and you guys are like this and you're like, she could get stabbed there and he could fight it over there. And we could set this
yes.
fucking like Rambo, like predator, like fucking trap thing with some spikes there. And people are like walking by like,
They're like, what's going on?
You're like, you do your picnic your way, we'll do it our way.
Right. They're like, yeah, I'm not walking down this way anymore. We're gonna go that way.
Oh.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love casting because there's so many great people out there. And
Casting's great because like you're gonna interview so many people, but what's nice, I think about it is however many people you bring in, there's always going to be people that aren't right for that role or whatever.
Right.
Like it's not like you're going to stop making movies tomorrow and then it's like you've got their contact info and their headshot and you're like, hey, remember that idea we were talking about we want to do like next summer or whatever? Like she would be
right
for that. Like
yes.
give her a call and be like, hey, you know, like soft sell it, like, hey, you're not right for this, but like what do you got going on like after like Memorial Day? Like you guys like free next summer? And they're like, huh? So yeah, you get that exactly. 5 and under part or whatever, but maybe you get a supporting role on the next thing, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's nice too, because I mean
everybody becomes friends, and it's what's great too with you guys like building your own like community is like I know it's an old joke, but it's like then they know a guy who has like a beat up truck that would be good for a movie, or they know a lady who runs their own like bookstore that somebody could run through if they're getting chased by some, because you could film it at 2 a.m.
Right.
It's like you it's like a snowball. It just goes on and on. So
it's awesome.
So what is Mort House Films working on now? Are you guys doing any more shorts or a feature, or what are you guys involved in like right now?
So my husband started a script years ago, but he had some health issues, so we put it off to the side. About a year ago, he posted just a portion of the script that he was working on, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, what is this? So we are in hopes this year to actually finish it, but it seems this year's going by so fast, and I'm like, what the heck? So I'm hoping we get it done this year, because last year was just, you know, the past couple of years of COVID. And it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film. So we have props for it already. Eric Burris from Delusion Studios, he's located in Bastrop, Texas. We met him at the Cult Classic Convention where we were guests back in, I think it was 2018. It was a while ago. We got some really cool stuff from him that's going to go into the film. And then they'll also, if we do Indiegogo, there'll be perks, but we're trying to not do that. We've done everything on our own budget with our own money.
It's so hard.
We want to keep it like that. It's hard,
yeah, it's so hard because and I know that like it sucks because the people who do seem to have like money to burn, they do think about those perks and those the all valuable but not valuable associate producer credit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like you can't put a lot of stuff out like merch and t-shirts and hats and all that, because you got to throw that all into the movie.
Yes.
And you guys will probably have to rent additional equipment. And if you can't pay, I always say if you can't afford to pay your actors, you got to be able to feed them.
Right. Yes.
The joke I was making with Jen Nangle the other day was just like, you know, because she's getting ready to film some stuff this month.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I've been on so many sets, I know you have too. It's like, you got to be better than Cheez-Its and Capri Sun.
Yeah.
I've been on sets before too, where people were like, the only thing open was this Circle K and eat up kids. And you're just like, wait, we only get one bag and one Capri Sun? Yeah, it's going to be a long night. Settle in. I'm like, it's like freezing out here. Well, buckle up, Buttercup. Like, okay.
Yes. Oh my God, we have been on sets like that. Me and my husband both, and we're like, what in the heck is going on?
Right. So because no one's got the money coming in, and then it's like, well, then how do you attract the actors and the crew when it's like, I mean, I've got some, you know, pretty good scripts, and I've been lucky enough to win some stuff.
I saw that
stuff, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you won awards or if the script is really good, because people have to live.
True.
Like they have. I mean, gas prices right now are insane. It's like the only way to really do it, I think, even for like a short film, is just to have everybody wherever the 1 or 2 or 3 like main locations are, like you got to keep everybody close and local and just be like,
Yes.
look, we're gonna from like a Friday night to like a week later, like Sunday night, like 8 days
Yeah.
or 7 days, like let's pound it out, let's do this short film, let's keep everybody here if we can. Because man, once people start like
Yes.
drifting away, like, oh, I don't shoot anything for 3 days, and the next thing you know, oh man, my I blew out a tire, or somebody I know is in the hospital, or this freak thing happened. We
Something
didn't have power in
happens.
our apartment, and you're like, it's like you, it's like it's tough. It's like you got to keep everybody
Yeah.
there, or it's like it's so easy for like little threads to start coming apart, and you're like, no.
Yeah,
Have
it
you guys had that
is.
happen before, where like
Yes. We've been on movie sets like that before, and
you ever
it's
had to
like, why are we
recast
taking a
like mid
break?
filming?
We haven't had to with any of our films, thank goodness. But we've been involved in films that have to do that because they'll start, then take a break, and then it does unravel. Or an actor's like, oh wait, I like this job better. I can't be in your film anymore, you know. So we've been in movies like that, but we've always stuck with it because if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna
Right.
say that and not work with you. That's not okay, you know. But we're lucky enough that all the films we have on Mort House, everyone's stuck together and just did
I've
it.
had it before where I'm trying to remember, it's like 10 years ago. It was either like the lead or the co-lead. He Some other gig came up where he was going to be, it was like a television or commercial thing, and he was going to get paid and be able to pay his rent for like 6 months, and it was going to be this
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
And I was pissed, but I was like, dude, if you could just come in for like a day, like we'll set aside a day, like on a weekend, like I'll pay to like have like the sound guy come in and just we'll just do wild lines to get your ADR, because there were scenes, so many scenes of him like reacting to things like over the shoulder and him saying stuff or thinking, in his mind as he's walking somewhere, and he's like, nah man, I'm good. So we had to have another guy come in and do lines. And it's like we kind of made it work, and it turned out okay, but it's just like it would have been so much better because of the flow of it, of
Yes.
seeing the guy like say the lines and like, why is his voice sound different in his head? Is he possessed? Like, yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, it's not part of the plot, but we'll fucking go with that.
We'll make
So
it
let
work.
me ask you this, because you've done a lot, and I see like a bright future for you guys. But what is something? It could either be a location or a story idea that
Mhm.
you haven't tried yet that you want to try in the future. It could be next year or the year after, where it's just like either it's like, oh, I never seen this before, or it's like, let's try this. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I want to try to maybe do like a serial killer film, but not based on a real serial killer, just like a maybe female lead who's a serial killer, just kind of make it like a cool twist. That's what we haven't done that yet. Like we've done like the possession and zombie and slasher, we've done all those. So that would, and we're into true crime, so that would just add to our collection. Like, oh cool, we can do this too. So I want like a female serial killer, just
Well, I don't
average
know.
everyday girl.
Talk to me off camera. We'll see what we can do.
That would be awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
so is there anything else, like any other? I mean, I know you've done primarily horror. Are there like
Hmm.
anything you've thought of, like sci-fi or like time travel or weird things, that you're like, okay, that's a little bit outside my comfort zone, but like you only live once. Like, why don't I try that?
Yeah, so I've been in movies in the past where it's like romantic comedies and stuff, and it's okay. I like having that other genre on my IMDb. Like it's cool because it's like, yeah, I can do this too. But I've done so many movies that are based on like slashers and possession and stuff like that. I've been doing those for years. I'm thinking, so what if I was to do something sci-fi? I do like sci-fi. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. Like aliens, I love all that. So I would love to be in a movie like that. That would be super cool. So that's close enough to what I do. It kind of hits close to home. I wouldn't be stepping too far, but I would love to do a sci-fi film.
Yeah, there's so much out there too. And I
Hmm.
think that like effects are becoming easier and cheaper to do, although for my money, which is not much money at all, um, like I'm still trying to figure out like practical effects because I just feel like they
Yeah.
still, if you can do it in camera, it looks the best. You don't have to fake it or fudge it or cover a broom handle with like that green like felt material and be like, this will be a glowing sword in post production, and then you don't do it in post production. It's a lightsaber now. Yeah.
Use your imagination, like you're in
Or there's
kindergarten.
just
Like,
nothing, and they're like, away, demon, and then you're just like,
just pretend.
it's like the Emperor from Star Wars. Like if they put the lightning coming out of his hands, he would look like a
Yes.
fucking Zot, just like shooting the, and then you're like, what? And he's like,
What's going
I'm
on?
giving you the being of a lifetime. You're like, your hands are shaking, old dude. What's up?
It's like, is there something wrong with you? Do we need to go to the hospital? What's
So
happening?
I know that you've had a pretty good relationship with our mutual friend Jen Nangle, Malvolia. So why don't you tell the folks at home how that kind of happened, and what you guys might be working on together, maybe? I don't know.
So it's funny. So how we met, of course, is online because that's how everyone meets now. We became Instagram friends and we were both in a contest. It was like the final girl contest or something like that long time ago. I was like 2017 or something. It was forever ago, way before pandemic. So it was it was on Instagram and we were actually against each other along with other actresses as well. So there was like a list of girls and you had to vote every day and we had to make videos and talk about why you should vote for us, and then we would post our films and everything. She won and I was like, I was studying her, like I'm checking out all the girls, I start following some of them and I look at Jen and I'm like, oh my God. And so I look at everything she's done and her bio is like filmmaker, won this award, this and this, and podcast and all this. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm like, oh, she's in California too, which isn't far from me. So I'm just checking her out and she's so talented. And then she won. And I was like, yes. Cause I'm like, I want you to, if I don't win, I want you to win, and we became quick friends, close, quick friends. Our friendship hasn't ended. We've been friends forever. And then she asked me to be a part of her Halloween special a few years ago. So my husband and I drove out to California, got an Airbnb. I played Jessie, who was a huge fan, and found her party. And she was like, what are you doing? You're human? What are you doing here? I'm supposed to be here. You're human. And I'm just like fangirling, and it ends up bad. So, but that was so much fun. We filmed in Long Beach. Everyone was amazing I worked with. Charles was there and Brianna was there, and it was just an amazing cast. Richard Trejo.
You talking
So
about Raina?
Raina, I guess okay, we filmed it at Raina's house, and I'm not gonna lie. So she was sending out all the emails like, okay, guys, so this is what you're gonna do, and this and this. And I saw her picture. It was one of her wrestling photos. I was like,
She's
oh,
a badass, man.
I know. I was like, shit, I'm kind of scared. I was like,
But she
oh my
is
God.
so nice. She has like the biggest heart, and
Yes.
she literally, like, from the project that I worked on with her a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, she like bends over backwards. She knew like other actors when I was like, oh my gosh, this has to, like, we only have like this month-long window of like writing it, rehearsing it, and filming it and getting it done and stuff. And so, and
Yeah.
she's just like, she's a go-getter, man, and she knows other people that are go-getters, and it's so nice and refreshing,
Yes.
rather than to reach out to somebody like, I'll get around to it, whatever.
And they don't. Yeah, exactly. She's
Like, I was gonna get around
amazing.
to it, but I ended up smoking pot for 3 months and moving back in my
I
grandma's
forgot.
basement, running a meth lab. It's all good. You're like,
It's like, thanks a lot.
I'm just gonna cut you out, buddy. So,
Yep, exactly.
but
She's
she's awesome.
passionate. She's
Yeah,
passionate, and I love it because she was there. She was sitting, so her husband directed it, Paul. He's awesome
Paul's
too.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes, I love him. And she was right there and she had ideas, and then my husband of course had ideas, and Jen's like, yes, all the ideas. And they were just, it was amazing just working with all of them. And then I ended up going back on her special, I think it was the following year, and I was the living dead girl, Jesse, because I rose from the dead and I'm all cocky and I'm like, hey, it was so much fun. We had so much fun filming it. Jen is a dream. She is literally so sweet, and I'm so happy I met her. And she's the closest I am to anyone in the industry, honestly. She's so genuine. She's so grateful for everything. And I love her. I love working with her. It's like when my husband and I go to California, it doesn't even feel like work. It's literally like a vacation because hanging out with her crew is just so great. They're
Well, it's like you can
professional.
tell the difference between like people that are excited to be a part of something and feel
Hmm.
like that they know how lucky they are to like be working on something versus people that are
Yeah.
like 60 years old and they got like a cigarette hanging out of their mouth and they're holding the boom and they're just like,
Like, oh my
yeah, well,
God.
3 more hours, then I'm off to my condo in Malibu. So fuck all y'all, whatever.
Right, exactly. You can tell, you can feel the energy, and working with her, she's my favorite. I love her. She's
Yeah, her
amazing.
whole crew is great.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. So this is a kind of a fun one. So what movies coming out this year are you really excited to see? It could be like any genre, anything. So you could say stuff that's already come out or stuff that's like about to come out if you because now that stuff is open, we can go back to the movies again, you know?
Right? I know. I swear. I'm thinking, have I even been to the movies? Like, I think I have, but so I don't know if you've seen this yet, but and I feel like we're the last ones to watch this because everyone's like, oh my God, I've already seen that like 6 months ago. But the new Scream, have
Yeah,
you
it was
seen it?
good.
I
It was
thought it was
good.
great. I was scared, and that's why we held off for so long because we're like, is it really going to be
Well, I
good?
felt like the fourth one was just,
Me too.
but
And
I
I
think I
watched
think it's
that.
because the first three were written by Kevin Williamson, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't think he had anything to do with these last two, but they clearly brought in like some really good people for the fifth one. So
Yeah, because when I watched the fourth one, I was like, okay, I have to watch this. I just have to because I have to go in order. I have to know what's going. And I was like, really, really, no. And then when this one came out, this Scream 5, I was like, okay, please be good, please be good. And I remember we were supposed to meet Nev Campbell at Mad Monster Convention in Arizona. I think it was last year, and she canceled. She's like, I'm filming a movie, and I'm thinking, whatever. And then it's this movie, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was like, it was really good. Surprisingly, I was really
you know
impressed
what's
by
funny is my daughter's about to be a teenager, so I'm gonna get some more gray hairs here soon.
it. You got
But
this.
she has slowly gotten interested in suspense and like horror movies, and I'm kind of like really wary about it because I don't want her to have like crazy nightmares. Like when she saw the poster or the billboard a few years ago for it, she was like, "What's that?" I was like, "That is a movie you will not see." Because I'm like,
Don't
and
worry
then
about
when
it.
the second one came out, she's like, "Another one." I'm like, "Well, it's the same story. It's a long book. It's like 1,000 pages." She's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Look, it's about a killer clown from outer space that kills children." And she's like, because it's like that thing in your head of like clowns,
Yep.
and then it's already scary enough, and then you're like, it turns into other things that is worse. I'm like, "Oh yeah." And she's like,
Your
"What?"
biggest
But
fears. Yeah.
she is a big Jenna Ortega fan because of that Stuck in the Middle show, and now Jenna
Yes.
Ortega has become like this scream queen. I mean,
Yeah.
she was in Scream 5,
Yes.
which is, I'm like, come on, people, just call it Scream 5. Don't call it, because then it's like you're talking like,
Yeah.
oh, the first one? No, the fifth one. Why is it the fifth? I'm like, ugh. But, you know, so
Get it right.
just put a 5. I mean, come on, don't be lazy. And then she was in that Studio 666, the Foo Fighters horror movie.
Yes.
She was in that, and then she's in some other horror movie. So I'm like, good for her, man, because now that she's like, I think way over 18, now she can do the R-rated stuff. But it's like, it's amazing how those younger audiences pull into like the stuff like this, where it's like, oh, I want to see it because she's in it. Well, do you like scary movies? I don't know. We watch it, and it was just like, oh, and I thought so and so was gonna die, and they didn't die, and I thought they were gonna die in the first 5 minutes because they're in the trailer, and they pick up the phone, and they go, I'm like,
time out.
slow down, your dad's brain is melting.
So
but
funny.
I think that that's great. So is there anything that hasn't come out that you're looking forward to?
Oh, okay. So don't judge me, because a lot of people are kind of like on the fence about him. I think he's an amazing director, and Josh does too, and we're huge fans of Rob Zombie,
Okay.
The Munsters.
That, I mean, I'm gonna be there. I'll go see
Yeah.
that. I mean, anything that guy does, I might not like everything he does, but it's like I'm always curious to see what he's gonna do, you know?
Yeah, because you never know. And with the Munsters, everyone expected, like the comments, you know, everyone has something to say, right? And there's always people who don't make movies. And oh, this is gonna be trash. Oh, it's gonna be like the trashy Munsters. Oh, it's gonna be this. Someone's gonna be a stripper and everything. He made it to where it's not like R-rated.
Right.
And everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Well, I'm sure like at the end of the day, it's like he wants to do other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wants to make like a big fantasy epic or a sci-fi thing, and then he's just got to get there where he's got a bigger audience. But like, what was I gonna say? I didn't really care for his remake of Halloween, but I think he was at a severe disadvantage because the David Gordon Green one that came out a few years ago, I mean, they had Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're at a disadvantage already because you're remaking something that people love. But when they got Jamie Lee Curtis, it was like, and then she signed on to do like a trilogy. It was like,
yes,
you can't compete with that. You can't compete with the original, because I maintain as a director that no matter how cool or how original your creature or your serial killer is, or how original or how brutal they are with their weapons or their knives, or how menacing they are with their costume,
right,
the only thing that sells it is the actor's reaction to the killer.
Yes.
I mean, you've seen, there's been so many shitty Halloween movies where they're just like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm like, that's
dude
what?
Coming at you with a knife like bigger than this pen, and he's gonna like
get you.
And then people are just like, oh,
I'm scared.
It's like Matthew Broderick trying to run away from Godzilla and that shitty from the 90s, where I'm like, dude, learn how to run, man. You're like a 40-year-old man at that time. Like, fucking run, dude. It's a giant dinosaur that it will fucking stomp you. And he's just like,
I'm really scared.
I mean, there's a difference between that and like Jurassic Park with like Spielberg, where he was just like, you better fucking run or you're off my movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, oh shit, I want that paycheck.
I'm scared. I'm running to the paycheck.
Okay, the one that I'm excited about, because I mean, there's like a lot of big budget movies coming. Like, I'm sure I'll go see the Jurassic World. I'll go see Avatar underwater, or whatever the fuck that's gonna be. But because it's James Cameron, and like one thing about James Cameron is you don't bet against James Cameron.
Exactly.
You don't. I mean,
Titanic.
it could be like the dumbest premise. You're like, oh, so this is Pocahontas in space. Okay, what else? But
I'll go see it.
And then you watch it and you're like, this movie's gonna make more money than God. Fuck.
I know, right?
Because the 3D, but the one I'm psyched about is the Northmen, the Viking revenge story by Robert Edgers. He did The Witch. and he made the lighthouse,
Yes.
Witch and the lighthouse
Oh
are
my
like so
God.
bizarre. But I mean,
Yep.
a guy like that who can do like gruesome horror and suspense, and he got all these amazing actors, and then they got like actual Scandinavian actors. They got like an Icelandic writer. They got Bjork in it. I'm like, Bjork, isn't she weird? And I saw the trailer, and she's like some kind of like soothsayer witch, and I'm like, of course, she's Bjork.
Makes sense. Absolutely
There's
makes
this
sense.
shot where in the trailer where Stellan Skarsgård, like he's got like this fucking like wolf head dress thing on, and they're like creeping through the woods near this village or whatever, and it's like
Uh-huh.
still got blood on it, like he just fucking killed the wolf like the scene before or something, I don't know. And
Wow.
then they're like gonna sneak into the village or whatever, and then one of the lookouts or whatever sees them coming, and the guy's like from like 100 yards away, and he throws the spear, and all of a sudden like Skarsgård just stands up and he's like, and he's like, and he catches the spear and he turns around and he goes, and he throws it, and you can see the guy like, I don't know, he's like 100 yards away, and you see it like, and it's like it looks
Oh
fucking
my
real. So either the guy did the
God.
old caught it with the armpit thing or something and fell, but he's
Right.
just like, this movie is like, people are just gonna get fucked up for 2 hours in this movie, because it's like we've
I
seen a
love
lot of
it.
Viking movies where I'm like, this is
Yeah.
kind of tame,
Yeah.
you know, because the Vikings didn't come to play hopscotch.
No, they're serious.
Yeah, they
They're
have
serious that
axes.
they're like, I'm gonna get you.
They
That's what I want
throw
to see.
hatchets at people.
Yeah.
Some people shake hands, they throw hatchets.
Yeah,
Well, I
exactly.
mean,
It's the
seriously, watch the
Vikings.
trailer for that where you're just like,
I will.
and then him just like walking through the village, and he's like all jacked up, and he's just wrecking fools as he goes, and you're like, I hope people see it, because it's one of those movies where like I don't think a lot of people went to the theater to see The Witch or The Lighthouse, but like
Yeah.
everybody that has seen them has been like, oh fuck man, you got to see this.
Yes, exactly. The Witch is actually one of my favorites. I
And
love
Anya
that
Taylor
movie.
Joy's in this too.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
And like Willem Dafoe and like Nicole
Yes.
Kidman and Ethan Hawke.
Oh my God, that's
It's
amazing.
just like, oh, okay, well, enjoy this movie, because you probably won't see a movie like this ever again.
No,
They just don't make them like that anymore, where it's like really honest, like brutal. Like if you were alive back then, you're probably lucky to be like 30.
Right? Yeah, like wow, you're still
If you were, your
alive.
nose was like fucking jacked up, and you had like a scar, and you were like the pretty
There's
one.
a
If you
story.
you had an eye patch and a scar, and you were like the pretty one.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's always this story that just takes you back. Yeah, it's crazy. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, I mean, if you like his other movies, I'm just saying, like, I hope it does
Yeah.
really well for him, because he was saying in an interview, like, he really wants to do like a horror movie that like the whole town is like involved, and there's like ritual killings and stuff, and he wants to
Oh
make
my
like
gosh.
a sci-fi. But I mean, it
That's
sucks
so
because it's like I
cool.
wish I could just was made of money and be like, make it, just go.
Yes, here you go. Funding.
But you know, it's like they've got to make their money back, right? And it's tough right now. It's a lot of people aren't going. I mean, I'm not a big fan
Yeah.
of like whatever number they're up to, like Fast and the Furious 37,
I know.
where I'm like, wait a minute,
Stop.
didn't they start racing cars and now they're like super spies driving their cars in space or some shit?
Yeah, it's
You're
like
like-
I am over it.
Like,
Yeah, I can't.
what? But you know why they keep making those is because everything else Vin Diesel doesn't make money.
Oh, that's true. I
Other
know.
than him doing the voice of Groot, which like we probably recorded enough I am Groots that they don't, dude, you don't need to come into the studio. Like, we're good, we got it.
We're good. We're
Groot, no,
good.
don't stand outside in the rain and tap the window. Like, we're fucking good, okay?
We don't need you to come in today. Thank you.
No, we know it's about family. No, we know.
It's like, okay.
So tell me some other stuff that like you want to get into. Like, are you guys looking to do shorts? Are you looking to do features, or like commercials. Do you guys ever work on other people's projects and like production areas or?
Yes. So so this is another film that we shot at the tail end of isolation, and it's called Amityville Hex. So this is a Vestra Pictures, and now Vipco took it under their wing. They're located in the United Kingdom. This is another Tony Newton film. So he approached us about this movie too. Sean C. Phillips is in it. He's a YouTuber. Everyone knows, like, he's super popular. He like talks about movies. So he's really nice. And then we have Rihanna Nicole. She's an actress. We've worked on a few projects together in the past, like COVID 2024, which is another movie shot in isolation with director Lauren Lepre. He's in Pennsylvania. Tony Newton, of course, he's in this movie too. And then my husband and Lloyd Kaufman. I'm like, yes. So we're in this movie and we get possessed and we're doing like a Zoom call and we're just drinking and hanging out. And then Sean finds this on the internet. He goes, there's this, if you say this phrase, you'll get possessed. And we're all like, okay. So it's one of those. And so we're all in this little Zoom meeting. We're all drinking and hanging out. And it's a fun fact on my scene at the beginning. Since my husband, he doesn't do music as much as he used to. It's been a while, but one of his music videos is playing in the background that I'm in. So you'll see like a glimpse of that. And it's a movie about possession. So that's one of the possession films. So Josh, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you because that's a spoiler. So I'm not going to tell you this part, but I do become possessed.
I was wondering, is it the butler with a candle holder in the pool room?
Yes, I almost gave a part away, and I'm like, no, don't do that. So, but everyone basically does become possessed, and like, what are you gonna do? You're stuck in this house. It's called the Amityville Hex. That's the name of it. And you say this phrase, and then you say 666, and then what's gonna happen? You go days and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, everyone becomes possessed. You're stuck inside. You can't leave. What are you going to do? So this force that you don't see just possesses everyone. And that's just part of it. So, but it's happening all over the country. And it becomes something widespread. It becomes a big thing on the news. So that's actually coming out. The trailer was released a few days ago. I shared it to my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter. So I'm really excited for everyone to see it because my husband did the special effects for us, of course, because
nice.
Second side. So yeah, he's really good at doing special effects work too. He did the whole setup, and we basically were told, hey, this is what the movie's about, and we improvised again, and it was great. And I love the improvisation part because it's like we can use our imaginations, and and it's just a fun movie. It's a feature film. So that will be released on DVD late April, early May. And that's on Vipco. So
nice.
Eye out for that. So I'm super excited for that.
I also wanted to recommend a film company that I've kind of had. I haven't worked with them, but I've interviewed a screenwriter from there, and I'm trying to get the director. They're called Hex Media. They're based out of Scotland.
Okay.
Scotland.
Wow.
And to me, it's such a heartwarming story. They started off making like no budget short films, like horror films. And now they're making like a fantasy epic, like Lord of the Rings type trilogy thing in just like less than 10 years. And they get like all these people to volunteer and like, oh, I want to take an arrow in the neck. Like, well, of course. But I mean, you can look at my, I didn't wear it today. Today I'm actually wearing my Godzilla playing guitar shirt.
Oh, that's so great.
But
he's my favorite. I love him.
The shirt they sent me is one of their first like features, and it was called Lord of Tears. And
you posted that, didn't you? Did you post that? I saw that.
It has the owl man from it. So I was interviewing Sarah. She's the screenwriter. Her name's also Sarah. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, hold on, hold on.
All right. And she was talking to me. I'm like, this seems so like ethereal and like from mythology and like it seems like it's something that's carried on through the ages and the gothic horror and everything. And I'm like, where have I seen this like Moloch creature before? And she's like, she was really polite and kind of was like smiling. She's like, actually, it's from the Bible. And I'm like, oh, right.
Makes
So
sense.
I'm not like a big religious person. And then I'm like,
you're right.
Okay.
I would have done the same. I've been like, oh yeah.
But then it's like they use it in a totally different way. They have
right.
like all these dolls, like merchandise. And during the lockdown, they set up pranks where they had that costume and a guy would like show up and then like, yeah, my buddy's right in here. And the guy would be like asleep on the couch. And then they'd have Moloch come and be like, it's time to awaken. And the guy would be like, holy
oh my God.
And then it was a prank. And I thought that's genius because then they're keeping their crew paid. They have masks on. And the guy is wearing a big mask, so he's fine during the COVID stuff. And then it's like, what a genius way to promote your company, get the name of whatever project you're working on out there, and then like keep people paid when everything's locked down. I was like, wow, that's genius.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and they've done like so many different kind of things. So check them out, like Hex Media.
I will.
So good. And then one of the last things I was gonna say is I mentioned like gothic horror, like you don't really see that kind of stuff anymore. And I just watched this movie the other night on Amazon, and it's called The Cursed.
I've heard of that movie.
So yeah, it has Boyd Holbrook and like Kelly Riley from Yellowstone. She's got a small part in it. But it's like a genre of horror that it's like you just don't hear anymore. The last one that was kind of like this was Drag Me to Hell by Sam Raimi.
Yep.
I call it the Gypsy Curse kind of movie. So this movie was a cross between like the Gypsy Curse and like a werewolf movie. But it's not quite like a werewolf. It's like so much more like intense. And there's a little bit of like The Thing dropped in. So
that's so cool.
It takes place in like the 70s or 80s. But it's one of those where it's like, because I have so many friends that have like short attention spans. And they're like, well, I want to see like buckets of blood. I'm like, dude, it's not stabby, stab, stab. It's like, it's a slow burn. I'm trying to tell them like, it's a slow burn. It's one of those like, creepy forest, a lot of fog, a lot of people like holding torches. It's like a throwback. And so I'm like, yeah, the first 20-25 minutes is slow, but then once they're like on the hunt for the creature and it
builds up,
it ramps up. And I talked to a couple of friends of mine and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, they introduce the characters, nothing bad's happening right away, and then stuff gets set in motion and you figure out who all the players are, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I'm like, it's so not funny. Like Fast and the Furious where all of a sudden it's like the credits roll and it's like, and they're racing. No, it's not like that. It's like, and they're furious. For some reason, everyone shakes.
Oh my God, I know. I'm like, ugh.
But yeah, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. The first like 20 minutes or so are pretty slow, but for a movie that I didn't even know, and I was like, it was on Amazon. I'm like, oh, I like these actors. Oh, this looks pretty cool, and it was really good.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out too.
Have you seen anything on like streaming that you could like recommend, like recently or?
So this is actually a show we're watching on Netflix, and I just ran across it because I'm a huge Dexter fan. We're huge Dexter fan. So Michael C. Hall, I think he was the executive producer on the show. This is from like 2017, I think. And it's called Safe. And he's British, which was weird hearing him talk like that. But it's like a British, I would say it's like a thriller. And he's a dad of two daughters. One disappears after a wild party where there's like death and drugs and drinking, and they're all teenagers. And he's like, oh my God, so my daughter's probably dead, or she's ran off with a boy, her boyfriend, or what's going on. So in true Dexter style, the cops know he's dating a cop. They know. But what is he doing? He's out doing investigations himself. He's figuring things out quicker than they are. It's a really good show. We're in the middle of it. I think we have kind of. We have a few more episodes to watch, but it's a really good show if you like thrillers.
Nice. Yeah, I've sat through a bunch of shows recently where I'm just like, they should have not done them.
This was terrible.
The Picard show with Patrick Stewart. Like the second season is better because they brought back the Q guy from Next Generation, but the first season was brutal because he's not a young man anymore. Not that I don't remember him being that young, but like when you got like a geriatric guy that's supposed to get into fisticuffs with people, and he's just like this with his hands, and then it's literally like people like they have to make like these 25-year-old like thugs come up and like bounce off his hands. So then they're like cut to the guy's just like and they go against the wall.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Don't come again or I'll give you another thrashing.
Yeah.
Like they got away from that, thank God. And it's like they brought in a lot of really cool side characters, but it's just like, man, you gotta let it go. Like I hate it when like a movie's really great and then they're like sequel, we gotta have a sequel. And it's like the first movie doesn't lend itself or leave it open and you're like, leave it alone. And the worst example of that is like a movie that I really love, which is Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
And they made like this movie about his sister. I watched 10 minutes of it. It wasn't even the same writer or director, and I was just like, no.
No.
And I had been warned by friends. They're like, don't watch the other one because it'll like diminish the first one for you. And I'm like, oh, that first movie is so perfect.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy like had no. I mean, that was like his first movie.
Yeah.
And it's like fucking brilliant. So
it's a great movie.
Well, I guess we've been yapping here for a little bit, so I guess we'll wrap it up. But I just want to give you a few minutes to kind of go down the line of like all your social media and all your online accounts like YouTube. I don't know if does Mort House Films have a website?
Yeah, so obviously we have social media. We only have Instagram and Facebook, which is Mort House Films. When you go to the page on Facebook, there's a link, so you'll see that. And there's also, if you want more information, there's an email attached. And then we have our YouTube channel, which is also Mort House Films. I guess that would be social media too, is on our Instagram. Yeah, I'm like, hold on. So that is that link to our films is on our Instagram bio. And then we also have, just real quick, we have a online store, and that's Grave Dirt Clothing. You can find that on Facebook and Instagram. Then for me on Instagram, Jessica Stabbit official _666. You can follow me there. Twitter at Jessica Stabbit. Facebook, Jessica Stabbit, and my personal page is Sarah Schultz, and my husband is at The Wicked One on Twitter and Instagram. That's all the pages we got.
That's a lot, though. I gotta get
back. It's a lot of managing. A lot.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and like I said, we'll chat it up off camera about projects and stuff. I've got stuff just collecting dust that I've been working on since the pandemic. So, and I'm working with Jen. So things are going good.
It's exciting.
Yep. So with that, I'll say enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And thank you so much for being on the show. You were awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.